to introduce Lese Corrigan. I'm sure many of y'all know her already. She's worked tirelessly for the art scene in Charleston, being a president and vice president of CAFATA, which is the Charleston Fine Art Dealer Association. She manages to run an incredibly organized business out of one of the smallest galleries in the city, and she does a great business that way. But her own work is what intrigues me. Her resume is literally so long that I couldn't sit here and read it all to you in the time that we have today. But what I'm interested in is what is it like when Lese herself puts aside all these other concerns and meets her own canvas, when she goes in there with her own ideas, what's in her mind, and how does she approach her own work, which is very interesting. So without further ado, Lese Corrigan.
Thank you, Joy. What lovely words. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Very kind. And for me, it is about getting into the paint, sort of almost swimming in the paint, trying to replicate that sense of the spark and sparkling and joy of life that's in the air, the moving of the ions, the vibrancy of life, and put that down on canvas so that people can respond to life from the canvas the same way they do to the exterior world.
So how did you get to your brushstroke technique that you use?
It was one of those wonderful things that developed sort of in happenstance of working through a particular series of paintings, and by about the 12th painting or so, these curves were happening. I did recognize later that the way I sign my LC are these curves, so repetition of that through the years. It's just become my signature brushstroke, although I think much more interesting, say for example in this piece where there's a variance going on versus a particular stacking of the curves. But the high texture gives more of a sense of the play of light, because things are constantly changing as the light goes across it, and depending on the shadows, the amount of light, where the viewer is standing, you get just a little bit of a variance, just almost a vibratory sense.
I don't know if you can see it in our pictures, but it does have a very tactile quality. There's a thickness that varies in the paintings, what she's talking about. It casts its own shadows and it changes in different light. It makes it even more interesting than the actual subject sometimes itself. Well, it adds to it, let's put it that way. I have to say something with you. You have worked so tirelessly for the Charleston art community for all these years. And it has just grown. Now we're the third largest destination in the country, which is something everybody's so excited about. How have you seen that grow? What are your thoughts on that? And what do you see for the future?
Oh, I have a feeling we're going to keep growing. The growth has been tremendous and a lovely thing to see. There's so many artists and so many galleries coming to town from off, as one says. The numbers, it was a handful of galleries or artists who had storefronts and were now, the number ebbs and flows, but there are many, many galleries, too many to get to in a short period of time. And the variance, the variety has increased, and the quality has, it's across the board as far as what you can get value for your dollar, or collecting artists in museum collections or heading towards them. There's just so much going on. It's wonderful. And continued growth will be great, and more people will come to the Charleston area because of the art world. We have friends, poets, wandering by in the street.
Hi, poets. That's how Charleston is. We aren't just the third largest art destination. We're also a terrific tourist town, and we get a wide variety of people, and kind of an upscale, educated tourist is what we usually get here, which is really wonderful because they know a lot about our architecture and our antiques and the art itself, and modern art, which has become more and more a staple on the Charleston scene, and it's so good to see. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it in my first few episodes. When I left for art school, there was no art scene to come back to, unless you wanted to make prints or something like that and sell them in the market. There were literally only a couple of artists making a living, and Spoleto kind of changed all that, but it took a few years. Spoleto, I believe, started in '77. And I think it was about '83 or so before Eva and all them were doing really well by what they had gotten out of Spoleto. And now it's rose to encompass all of our modern artists that we have today, including Manning Williams, which I know that you were a good friend of, who I love his work. And I can see, you know, every artist in Charleston has their own approach to things, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this show, so that we could sit down and talk to people and see, you know, how do you see your own work, and what's it like when it's just you and the canvas, and how do you feel? How do you feel when you finish a painting? Especially when it sells.
Relieved. No, more so in finishing a painting, there's a sense of relief. As I tell people, if I haven't been painting because I've spent too much time doing paperwork or computer or dealing with the wonderful visitors, it's as though paintings get stuck in my hands. And so there is very much a sense of relief that I've been in the right place at the right moment when I finish a piece, whether it's a good piece, a bad piece, whatever. At least there's that almost like you know, a computer dump or a brain dump, where you're just putting it forth, putting it out, that energy, and then something new comes into being by transforming that paint out of a tube or can onto the canvas.
And how do you usually generate your ideas? What usually sparks your creativity?
Oh, the ideas are endless, nonstop. You know, the way the sunlight hits something, the way a color stands out at night when you get those funny neon glows on things, singular objects, you know, the birds up on the wire, the brick, how the color changes as the sun moves. Books I've read, other work I've seen, in the sense of, ooh, look at that one little passage or that one line, how pristine or complex it is. I have more ideas than I will ever, in 3 lifetimes, be able to put down. So the ideas are never a problem, and neither is the creative drive. It's just the putting aside other things.
I wouldn't put it past her to get them all done. She is one of the most organized people I have ever met. Running the business that you have run out of this small space and doing all the work you've done for so many other artists and for the Charleston art scene in particular. Personally, let me shake your hand for everyone.
Thank you.
We want to thank so much Lese for being with us today and sharing her views on her work. Thank you so very much. And thank you for watching 1,000 Words.